read it.
Welcome back, guys, for another episode of the Better Me Equals a Better We podcast. I am your host, Trey Quan. Nice to be back with you guys. This is episode 12. Title is I'm a Father, but I grew up without a father. So very, very sensitive topic. Something that I think is going to be really, good just in general for all of the men. Something that's not talked about enough when we talk about parenting. We talk a lot about, being a mother and the hardships of the mother and a lot of the things that the dads do and don't do. But a lot of it stems from a lot of different things. And one of those things could be not having a father or father figure in your life, growing up. So without further ado, I brought two panelists along with me, two guys with me to talk about this topic. And the first person I want to introduce is Marcus. So introduce yourself to our viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself.
All right, yeah, my name is Marcus. I'm from the Bronx. I'm 30 years old. I have a 3-year-old son. I knew Trey and Van A a long time. So, yeah, I'm from the Bronx and I grew up without a father too. So,
Yeah.
I get it from the horse's mouth.
Look, I hear that, right? I hear that. I've known Marcus for a really long time, really, really good guy, really amazing father. And I thought that he would be a great person to really add insight on it because he's a younger, person, somebody that we can all relate to, being in the younger generation. So without further ado, my dad.
Yes, that's me. I'm Trey.
Why don't you introduce yourself for our viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself?
I'm Trey, and I'm from Africa, and I just came over here on the boat. I'm joking. And
You ain't gonna say his age.
yeah, I'm in the older age who have a different perspective, and we're gonna make it work because we can join together all perspectives.
Right.
I go from the older to the younger, so I'm in the middle age to where I can gap the group
Right.
from younger to older. Because I know the older story and I know the younger story. So I'm here to just put the middle group in to the situation.
And round it out, right?
Yes.
So for me, right, as you can see, like I have a dad. My dad has been here, since I could remember. But I'm pretty sure there were some things that, like when I grew up, that I didn't like, things that I went through that I wish would have went a little differently. And as I got older, my dad explained to me, the hardships of doing what he did for us, all that he did for us, which was a lot, without having a father, right? So I want to talk about an article, or the basis of this conversation will be an article, and the article was entitled "What Experiences Make Men Emotionally Unavailable," and it stems from being a fatherless kid and growing up without a father. And one of the topics that they had was the effects on self-esteem, right? And when I look at that, I think when people think about self-esteem, they think about like, am I good looking? Am I not good looking? Can I talk to this guy? Can I talk to this girl? Like that sort of thing. But sometimes self-esteem is just, do I feel like I deserve this? Or do I feel like I deserve that? And that I'll start with you. Did growing up with a father affect the way that you felt like you deserved to be loved by other people?
It didn't affect me in that kind of way due to the fact that I'm gonna make it better. Like growing up without a father to me made me have to be a better father so that mines don't have to go through certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
My situation was a little bit different due to the fact that I had an uncle who was a father figure but wasn't my father,
Right.
but gave me the courage to be great. Like I'm great.
Yeah.
Like I'm great. Like it's no taking away from my greatness.
Yeah.
And it forced me to be even more greater.
Yeah.
It never took away. I never felt lost without having him in my life.
Okay. Yeah.
Love him with all my heart, but never felt like I needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And that's a good way to look at it, right? Like when you're in a situation where you're someone who maybe your dad wasn't there, but you have somebody who can step in and kind of give you that father figure role, and then you don't feel like you're missing as much. So I think that that's a great perspective. Another thing that I notice a lot when we look at generational behaviors and just the way that people feel about certain things or think about certain things is I'm going to be like this because everyone has always been like this, or things are always like this. So Marcus, I'll ask you this, like, did having an absent father make you feel as if like you were destined to be a bad person or a bad dad because he was absent?
No. No. Though it did make me question my abilities as a father when my son was first born, and it did make me question like if I was totally prepared to raise my son. I had too much love in my life to feel like I was gonna be a bad person. Though like once she was in labor, all those thoughts came to mind. Like, do I have what it takes? Am I gonna be a good dad or a bad dad? Though I feel like I learned from the absence of my father what not to do. You feel
Yeah.
me? But it's a learning process. So it's not like I'm gonna say anyone is perfect. I'm not perfect, though. Like I don't feel like I'm not equipped to be a good dad or a good father. I don't feel like that. Though I do feel like, you know, it might have been easier,
Yeah.
or I might have had more lessons on how to deal with women and how to deal with my child when he's acting bad. You understand? So
Right. Right. Yeah,
yeah.
and that's definitely a good perspective, because and that actually leads me into my next question, right? When we talk about questioning ourselves, right? That process of not having a dad, and then now you're becoming a dad, and the scariest thing is like I don't have a model, like I don't have anything to model parenthood after, right? So that I'll ask you this, did your father being absent maybe create like any uncertainty like in your ability to be a father? Like was there ever a point where you was like, I don't know if I can do this, because I never, although I had people that kind of stepped in and helped where they could, but I never actually had a model or someone to model fatherhood after?
No, because it made me become better. I know what I didn't want to be.
Okay.
So that's what I use my stepping stone on. Not what he was. I knew what I didn't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I got to move forward. I got to be better than him. As I tell my kids today, as you become a father, be a better father than me.
Yeah.
Because I made mistakes as being a father.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I need you to be better than I was. So wherever I drop the ball at, you pick it up, pick it higher.
Yeah.
Where he dropped the ball off, I pick it up and put it higher. Only difference is his ceiling was low. Mine's is high.
Right.
Like I made a high ceiling for my kids. Like, listen, I'm gonna make sure you do this and do that and do this and do that. Nobody gave me a handbook.
Yeah.
But not one of my kids out of all four of them walked out of the hospital without an outfit that I bought for them.
Yeah.
That made me proud. Yeah. As a man.
Right.
And a father.
Right.
I probably bought the last outfit they wearing today. I'm happy to see. But it's like, no, it only lift me. It only uplift me. None of it was meant to break me. Everything that was meant to break me, I'm going through it. Going through it. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna do this better. I'm gonna do this better. I'm gonna be a better father. I'm gonna be a better uncle. I'm gonna be a better cousin, nephew, grandson. Everything in life, I'm gonna be better than whatever was gave to me before me, because it was a lot gave to me.
Right.
and there's a lot on my shoulders.
And I think that that's dope. One of the things that I really like that you said is like the ceiling, right? And how high we have to set the ceiling, because a lot of times when we look at the things that we do, the things that we become as people, as adults, we don't realize that we're not going to be here forever, right? So everything that we do passes down to the next generation. They model that and they try to, make it better, and build on top of that. So setting a high ceiling, so that your child can aspire to go past that ceiling and further on and further on, is very, very important. One of the things that I've noticed, just growing up, right? Like, even though I just turned 30, like I feel like I was in my teenage years, like not too long ago. And one of the things that I noticed is that a lot of times when your dad is not as present or absent, um, children tend to, or men, or young men, I should say, tend to show out a little bit more, be a little bit more aggressive. Marcus, like when you were growing up, like as an adolescent, did you ever feel the need to prove yourself because of your dad not being around?
No, I just felt a little jaded. I didn't feel a need to have to prove myself though, because I had a great mom and I had great family support. So like I didn't feel a need. When I lost my mom, the absence of my father hit. And I felt like I just needed to become a man. And that's because his absence, but I never felt like I needed to prove myself to like other kids or like to anybody else who wasn't in my situation. But once my mom's passed, and she passed when I was 15 years old. So
Wow.
I felt the need to have to step up and become a man. You understand? And nobody knows how to be a perfect man. So there's things that I wish I could have talked to my father about, things that I had to prove to myself.
Right.
Understand? And it would have been easier if I had a father there.
Right. And honestly, I can definitely, understand that 110%. And, I tell you this when I see you, like, my condolences. I hate that you had to go through that. One, having an absent dad, and then midway through your adolescence, like, losing your mom. So there's definitely a point where you feel like, wow, like I gotta be the guy, right? And then you have siblings and you like, yo, I gotta be the man. But now it's like, how do I do that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still growing up. Like, how do I be the man, right? So I could only imagine how tough that was. But looking at like not having that relationship, like you said, and not being able to lean on that person and be able to get guidance and stuff like that. And when it came time to now you become a parent, and Dad, I'll ask you this: like when it came time for you to become a parent, uh, did you ever experience, or was there ever a time where you felt like difficulty in bonding with your kids, being that you never had the opportunity to like bond with your father? So maybe you didn't really know like what does father, son,
Yeah.
father, daughter bonding look like?
Yes, because I didn't know, excuse me, y'all, how to begin it. My thing was being a father was always just providing. It wasn't about hugs and kisses, which it should have been, but I didn't know better. Only thing I knew was providing.
Yeah.
As long as I felt like I was providing, I thought that meant being a father.
Mm-hmm.
And fatherhood over the years has changed me. But I have always been a father, but I grew into that role.
Yeah.
Not that I was born in that role, I grew into it because I wish I would have told you I love you more while you was growing instead of telling you I love you now when you 30.
Yeah.
It would have been better at 15 than it would have been at 30.
Yeah.
Just didn't know better. So my learning curve was, how do you be a father?
Yeah.
Where I come from, that wasn't known. We was taught by others,
Yeah.
and no others told us they love. Fathers, mothers tell you they love you. I wish I would have did that. So if I could have changed anything or fixed it, I would have did more of that instead of just being do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do as I say, nigga, not as I do, nigga. That's who I am. That's all I know.
Yeah. To touch on that, it's still like, I kind of go through the same thing right now. Though I know that time means more than any material possession you could give your child, I still go through that right now. Like, as long as I make sure that he's provided for, I make sure he can have clothes on his back and food, that I'm good. But that's not really it. Like, you know, your son wants time and needs time, but that's part of the generational curses that we have. You understand? That we are trying to break. And it's not easy. It's not easy. Like, you know, your life, you never know where your life is going to take you. That's all I want to say.
But we're doing now, though. The good thing is we're doing it now.
Right. And
like we're changing it now to the point where we can keep moving forward.
right.
It's not like we fail if we don't get it right the first time. It's just we didn't know no better.
Right.
Until we know better, we can do better. Once we know better, we do better.
Right.
And that's what we do.
Right. Exactly.
And that's how it goes. That's how we all grow. That's how we all build. That's how we all get to a better place.
Right. And the good thing is that, you know, being in a position where you can be vulnerable and say, like, listen, this is what's going wrong, right? This is what's going wrong. This is what I'm not doing right. I understand that this is not right. It puts us in a position now to be better, right? Like, so if I said, I know for me and in my personal experience, and this is, of course, a conversation I've had with my dad where, like he said, like, he provided, but maybe missed a lot of my basketball games, right? And for me, that time would have meant way more than all of the Carmelo sneakers I had and the Nikes, and that would have meant so much more to me than that. But now I can't tell you like how much my dad called me, like, you coming over, like how much time we spent, because you may get it wrong at first, but then you just take that and then you learn from it and become better, right? Marcus, do you feel like now kind of shifting gears a little bit, right? Do you feel like there was ever a point where you felt like that absence affected the way that you were able to bond with women?
Yes, 100%. And I'm laughing because I'm reading the comments, and whoever Natalie Newson is, I thank you for the comments, and Natalie Nicole,
Oh
thank
yeah,
you for the comments. Honestly, me and my girl was just talking about this earlier. So I learned how to love from a woman. You understand? And my basis, I learned what not to do from her boyfriends. You understand? So my father was never present. He was never there to tell me this is something you do, this is something you don't. And I do think it affects the way that I deal with women 100%, because like you know, my mom told me to be a gentleman, you know, though it's like after she passed away, I was raised by the Bronx. And Trey, you know how that is.
That's deep.
And so I feel like I pour out a lot of love, though it's some instrumental lessons that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna get. It's like I gotta make sure the next generation get that. It's not like programmed in me to do certain things. Like, yeah, I'm holding the door, but she was saying like, you know, people from 2-parent households, they're trained to open the door for their woman, treat their woman with respect and value their woman. And it's like, I feel like I do that already, but it's like certain things that it's like I'm not prepped to do. Like, you understand? Yeah. And it's like I don't feel like that gives me shortcomings. I just know that I'm different. Like,
yeah,
I was raised by a strong woman. I love strong women. Like, So it might be certain things that I'm insensitive to, like
Yeah.
insensitive to a lot of things, like, and it's like, you know, it makes it different when a woman deals with me. Like, you know, a
Right.
lot of times they just feel like I don't care about certain stuff, and it
Yeah.
don't be that. It's just like
Who wasn't raised?
nobody wants to say they don't know no better, but it's like,
They don't know
you
no.
understand?
And that's so instrumental to be able to say, like, it's not to say that I'm not a good person. It's not to say that I don't have that, but that's not something that comes second nature to me,
It
because
wasn't taught.
I wasn't taught to be that way. I wasn't raised to be that way. And then in your situation in particular, like, in certain ways, mothers can overcompensate for the father not being around and teach them the little things that they know about being a man. But ultimately, no matter how you shape it, no matter how you cut the pie, I know some women like to celebrate Father's Day because their child's father may be absent, but there's a man can never be a woman, right? I can never, if I have a daughter, I can never teach my daughter how to be a woman. I can teach her the things that I know about womanhood, right? But if for some reason, if I had a daughter and the mother was absent for whatever reason, that would
Can't teach her
fall
how to be a woman.
right in the same way that,
I'm gonna teach you what niggas do.
right.
I'm
And
gonna teach you about men.
but now,
And the only thing a woman can do for a man is teach
She's
them
still not
about
gonna
how to
learn
act.
how to see. Women that grow up without fathers are a big problem too. Like, it's not a big problem, but they go through a lot of the same things that we go through. Like, we may not know the correct thing to do as a man if we grew up as our father. And when a woman grows up without their father, they don't know how to treat men, and they become combative. They feel
and
like
it's
the first man that was supposed to be there for them just leaves, and you know,
and I
that's what we're dealing with.
that might be a great thing to talk about, in an episode or two, the effects on women, growing up without a father. But I definitely think, as much as women try to overcompensate, like, women, you can't teach your son how to be a man. So it's always good to try to have a father figure if your father is absent, because that's the only way you're going to learn how to really be a man, or have a model of how to be a man, right? So in talking about, like, bonding with our kids and bonding, being able to bond with women, and because of your father being absent, what are some things that you would say that you do to try to ensure that, like, now at this time, like, you're bonding with your children?
Well, I do whatever they need to be done. I'm older now because when I had kids at a younger age. I was raising them as I was raising myself. So I'm learning on the fly. It's not like they gave me the handbook, said this how it goes, do this, do that. No. I had to learn on the fly. I wasn't taught to be a sissy boy. I had to be the tough boy. I had to be this. I had to be that. And I would say, honestly, with all of the love in my heart and all of the people that taught me, a lot of stuff they taught me wasn't quite right because they pushed me over the fence before they came me back to the fence. It's just like, oh, be this, be that. I'm not into that. Like all of this, boys can't cry, this, that. That's corny. That's no truth in that. A boy can cry. If you hurt, you can cry.
Yeah.
Don't allow nobody to take your sensibility away from you to where you can't be sensitive.
Right.
That do not make you less than a man.
Right.
It make you human.
Mm-hmm.
If they take that away from you, you might can't get it back.
Right.
So you have to stay in the middle. So some of the teachings we do, that's like the difference between an uncle and a father. An uncle gonna tell you everything right, and he's gonna tell you don't cry when you fall off the bike. A daddy gonna tell you, all right, you can fall. I'll pick you up. We'll try it again.
Yeah.
That little bit of difference make a difference.
Yeah. Definitely.
So therefore, you can move forward. We
Right.
can't be stuck on we have to be this, we have to be that.
Yeah.
No.
and that leads me into the next question. As far as like, we got to be this, we got to be that, right? When you don't have that model, and you know what not to do, or you know what you lacked, right? So let's say, for example, you never had a dad to show you how to ride a bike or buy you anything, or just things like that, right? Marcus, do you think it's common for men to overcompensate in certain areas when it comes to their kid, due to not having, or due to having an absent father?
According to the woman, is common. Yes, I do try to be there for my son in a way that I was not like taken care of, the way that he wasn't there for me. Though, like, my son needs discipline, he's gonna get discipline. I have to teach him early that the world is not gonna be his friend all the time. There may be times where everything in your life is going great, then God throws you a curveball. So, you know, and he's 3, so, you know, it's kind of hard. So, you know, they all feel like I'm soft on him. Though it's like, I know when he needs to be disciplined, and I know when I can't just give him his way all the time. So I do want to say yes to that question, because I know a lot of men that overcompensate, like, you know, they're
Okay.
Yeah, we lost Marcus for a second, but he'll be right back.
And
There you go.
Yeah.
position. A man coming from our position is gonna try their best to give their son what their father never gave them.
Yeah.
You understand? As far as women, do we overcompensate in the areas such as love due to having an absent father? Now, there's some men who don't, but people like me, no, not at all.
Well, people like
Like,
me,
if you're
yes.
a woman like my mother, you're gonna have all my affection in my heart. Like, I'm gonna go to the end of the earth for you. Like, you understand? Though I still have the sense of right and wrong. Like,
Yeah.
you understand? Like, now, all right, now this is too much. Like, you understand? Now you gotta chill. You feel me? So I know there are some men who probably do overcompensate in that area. And then there's some men who don't. I feel like I'm right on the fine line. Like, I know I was taught well how to treat a woman. Now, how to be a man though, like, stand up for myself. Like, hold on, now you're doing a little bit too much. Like, or now I'm going too far. Like, you got to learn that. I had to learn that on my own. And I'm
Right.
30 now. So I've learned it. Like, you understand? You
Right.
know me, Trey. I'm the type of person I'm gonna do you. I love you. I'm doing anything for you.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, you gotta be discerning with that type of love. Like, you gotta choose wisely. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. And that's definitely something I can say that I learned from my dad, right? Being able to understand that what you have is not for everybody. Because I know he's about to tell his truth, and he's just, overcompensation is a understatement, right? But what he learned from that, he was able to show me, like, you got to chill out on this a little bit, chill out on that a little bit. So, like, what's your take on that?
I overcompensate, but we also have to understand too, when you have an absent father, if you're involved with your grandmother or on his side of the family,
Yeah,
they also overcompensate.
yeah,
Like, my grandmother will overcompensate me to like that lady right there would have did anything and everything for me because of not because of his absence, but he was absent, but the love she gave me made up for his absence. My auntie, the love she gives me makes up for his absence. To the point where I could have took advantage of it because I see it, but I will never do that. I have to calm it down so they don't overcompensate for his absence. Like, I can go to my grandmother's house and she'll be like, "Oh, your daddy ain't here, but here, go give me. No, I didn't come here for nothing.
right.
I just came to for you.
Right.
That's why I'm her favorite grandson, and I'm just gonna make sure everybody know that. But
Look, you're gonna start some trouble.
watch the chat. The chat go crazy.
You're gonna start some trouble in that.
But they overcompensate. Do I overcompensate? Yes, I always have. I always want to make sure that my kids have more than I did. But the problem with that is sometimes we make selfish kids. We can also make selfish kids out of that.
Yeah.
And that we don't want.
Yeah.
I want a balance to where I'm only going to give more than necessary, but less than too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is where we have to do that, because that's what will happen. Yeah. Because we're all going to try to overcompensate. And if you look at it, that's the only way it's been done from generations to generations. My mother gave me more than she had. Her mother gave her more than she had. Mm-hmm. Her mother gave her more than she had. All of our parents give us more and more. Yeah. Yeah. But we just can't give too much so we make ungrateful people.
Yeah. And
ungrateful people is not good people in the world.
Yeah, and that's very true. That's something that I think that you'll notice, or even I noticed, raising two kids and my oldest being he'll be 11 in November. And when you give with no responsibility, right? You don't put in, you just give just because. And then at some point when they get a little older, you try and teach them responsibility and things of that sort. And now it's time to say, okay, well, if you want this, I need you to do this chore, and this is how you get allowance, and this is how, well, nowadays, this is how you're gonna get V-Bucks and Robux and all that other stuff. Now they're looking at you like you doing them wrong, or you doing them a disservice because they so used to you just giving it to them for no reason at all. And I think the one thing that we can all agree on as men is that there's probably never going to be a point in our life where people are just going to give us stuff. Like, so we have to teach as a father, and you're raising, if you're raising boys, or even if you're raising women, right? But especially if you're raising a boy, you have to teach them, like, if you want this, you have to do this, like that sense of responsibility, that work ethic. Because the world, like Marcus said earlier, is not always going to be friendly. It's not always going to be smiles and Hallmark cards, right? And you have to be prepared for that. So Marcus, like, what are some suggestions that you would give to somebody who doesn't have a father present? Like, or if you can go, maybe talk to yourself when you were younger, like, what's some advice you would give to a young man growing up without a father?
Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. And everything you need to learn, the world will teach you. Just got to pay attention. Don't take him not being there personally. I'm not going to say don't be angry, because that would be like foolish.
Right.
But just don't take it personal. Know that God gave you the tools that you need to succeed right there. Mm-hmm. Another thing I would say to him is, like, you learning how to become a man with no example in front of you except what you choose. So you can really choose to become the man you want to be. See, like, we become our fathers. So if that example is in front of you, whether it's a good example or a bad example, most people are going to be an image of that, a spitting image. Even if they take the good and don't take the bad, they're going to take some traits from their father. So somebody growing up without their father, they choose other people to idolize. And that's what's going on in society today. And these kids just need some of the right people to pick.
Yeah.
You understand? So I would tell them, don't take it personally, and your whole life is in front of you, and just choose the right people that you want to look up to.
Right.
Choose the right examples.
Right. And that's a great way that's great advice, right? I'll just say that, like, especially don't take it personally, right? Because a lot of times I think that that's one of the struggles. I know for me, again, I'll say this 100 times, like, my dad has always been in the house with me since I was a kid. But what I lacked physical presence, right? Like my dad, like being there, like because, and I took it personal. Like, especially I go to certain games and it'll be all the other kids' parents was there, and then, you know, or certain games I would really want him to be there. And it's
Yeah,
like,
it's hard not to.
you know,
Well, may God bless you and may God bless your pops, man. He's sitting
yeah,
with
like,
you on the couch right now, man.
exactly, right? Exactly. So I got to a point where I was taking it personally, but then as I got older, we now were able to sit and talk about certain things because I realized that there was an underlining thing going on, and that was one, and first and foremost, work. You know, my dad worked overnight my whole life. I didn't understand that if he worked overnight, he couldn't get up at 8 o'clock and come to my game, even though he just came in at 6. Like I didn't even think to ask. It was just like, you're not here. Like, so I took it personal. I thought it was like what, he don't want to be around me. Especially when, you know, my brother played football. He had games on Sundays, but my dad didn't work Saturday. So he got enough sleep and was able to go Sunday. Like, so now I'm looking like, is it me? Right. So I think not taking it personally. You know, a lot of people have parents who may have a particular habit, maybe strung out on drugs, maybe going through something that presents that affects them being able to be present, right? So not taking it personally, knowing that whatever reason that that person had for not being present, being a
Yeah, that's
totally
big.
absent father, yeah, like it had nothing or may not have had anything to do with you, right? And then also, like, as far as when you talked about you know, your life being in front of you, right? We are the choices that we make, right? So like you said, like you can become whatever man you want to be, right? You can become whatever person you want to be. We just take that time to say, this is what I want to do, these are the steps that I need to get there, and this is who I'm going to be. So if someone is watching this and you may have an absent father, understand that that doesn't have to define you, right? It doesn't have to define you. I know in my situation, it didn't define my dad because, again, he made it his business to be here. He made it his business to choose a different route. And you can do the same thing. So it's not something that's impossible because, again, if you're watching this and you have an absent father, like, here's an example of somebody who made it their business to be here. Marcus, a young man, is an example of someone who said, I'm going to be in my son's life, right? And we're all still growing. My dad is still growing. Marcus is still growing. I'm still growing. We're all learning. But we made the decision to create the life, you know, that we wanted. Um, so that, do you think that when it came to growing up and certain things affecting you and just talking about how um, having an absent father can affect you emotionally, do you feel like your father being absent, or do you believe that certain things were more stressful as far as like parenting or being a father? Um, did it have anything to do with you not having a father like model or
No, but I'm gonna say before I even go on,
okay,
I'm gonna speak up for my absent father,
yeah,
who happened to be an absent father. Life goes on. All of our lives is our own journey. My father was not a bad person.
mm-hmm.
Like, I love my father. If I would have never saw him after my birth, I would have never not loved my father because my mother never told me a bad thing about my father.
Mm.
Not one time has my mother ever spoke a bad word about my father. His life got caught up in his life. Sometimes things happen. I'm not mad at him. The wonderful thing about it was I got to spend his later days with him.
Right,
That was the one thing. It's like when you're absentee father, we don't know all situations to the situation.
yeah,
Sometimes a dude just a sign bucket. Sometimes a dude got a chick and they just don't make it, and that's just make it an absent father.
right,
That can happen. But with his situation, he ended up where he was because that's where he was. That's the life he lived.
Yeah.
I'm cool with it.
Yo, Trey, he keep going in and out a little bit. It's hard to hear him.
Oh, okay, okay. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, sit up a little bit.
Okay.
I'm gonna sit up like on the edge. Yeah, there you go.
I gotta come to the main thing.
Yeah. All right. Can you guys hear him now?
All right. So where we go from a father to his situation, we gotta not feel like it's our fault. As long as you don't feel like it, because it's never your fault. It's never your fault. The only body you can blame for an absentee father is life. And that's the road that he made. He made a left when he probably should have made a right. So is life gonna take people?
So you feel like, excuse me to cut you off, you feel like I
No,
can't blame my father?
not really, because it's his life. And
Nah.
his life made different turns. His life made different turns. And it's bad choices. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
want
gonna
to
be.
I don't want to blame mine because what if I make a bad choice and I make a bad turn? What if you make a bad turn? You want them to hold you accountable for the bad turn? Just say I made
Yes,
a bad turn. I'm not a
I
bad
want them
person
to
because
hold me accountable. If I don't never stand back for my son and my daughter, because my sister is a year older than me. Like I'm born in October, she born in October. We share the same mother and the same father. He didn't spend back for either of us. He never made the attempt. And I think he lived longer than my mother. Do I hold resentment to him? No, but I just know that that's not the type of man I want to be. Like, I don't care what happened. Like,
but he made
these
you
are
a
two
better man.
people that created.
He made you better though. He
Time
made
out.
you better
How? How?
because you're not gonna do what he did. Because you're not gonna do what he did. You're gonna spin back. You're gonna spin back and you'll run through a building to get with yours. So no matter what his thing was, it made you a better person. It was still a
Yeah.
learning lesson.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say I blame him for all the difficulties I went through in my life. And I'm not gonna say that him being there would have made it easier. I'm just know that that's somebody who was supposed to be there. You understand what I'm
Right.
And
saying?
it
Like,
definitely,
Right. He was definitely supposed to be there because his advice would have came from a good place. We get the same advice from somebody else. We just don't know what place it's coming from.
yeah.
Like when your father gives you advice, that's coming from the heart. That's coming from the soul. When big homie at the corner store give you advice, you don't quite know where that's coming from.
Yeah.
Some of it can be good and some of it can be bad. Some of it can be like, I'm really trying to help you, and some of it could, I'm just gonna use you.
Yeah.
Like that be the difference in the thing. But
And
yeah,
just to interject for a second, I think the
he said he fixed it.
I think the hard part about it is the perspective that you look at it in, right? Because if you're looking at it in the sense of like, all right, we can't blame them because life happens, right? And when we become adults, we understand that life happens, right? So maybe you don't blame them for life happening, but when you think about the emotional, like the long-term emotional effect that it has on someone, somebody can be held accountable for that. Yes, it did, or it can create for you to be a better person, but there are a lot of people who may have held on to that, who don't have your story, or who doesn't have Marcus's story, right? Who because of that emotional trauma, it forced them to give up, right? So I think that there's a lot of different ways to look at it depending on how you took it emotionally, right? And I think that it varies from person to person. I think that however we do take it emotionally, once if you have a support system, or if you're old enough to seek, or everybody's old enough to seek counseling. But I think like those are the sort of things that we as a community, as Black, what people will call minorities, something that we have to look more into, like seeking help, seeking counseling, seeking therapy, like things of that sort, because these are long-term, emotional trauma that that we're not dealing with, right? And if you don't deal with it properly, it can affect the way that you deal with other people, going forward. And just talking about that, Marcus, I'll ask you this. What are some suggestions that you would have for a father who grew up without a father that's dealing with like long-term emotional stress?
Don't doubt yourself. And if you need help, reach out for help. Everybody parents have help. He may not know that because he feel like I gotta be the man. I go through that sometimes and I just ask like my aunt. You understand? I ask my aunt or one of my sisters. You understand? Like, though there are certain conversations that you can only have with your dad, you good. You can have those conversations with God now. I would tell him, don't stress. And if you need help, ask for help. And don't doubt yourself because there was nobody there to show you the way. That means
Right.
you could find it on your own.
Right. And you can only do what you can do, right? And like Nikki said in our comments, it takes a village, right? Like it takes a village. No matter how you look at it, just because you may not have had certain things or that person um in order to be there that created that emotional stress. There are people who can help you in certain areas. So find that help, right? Wherever it may be. Like you said, like your aunt. If for my dad, I know it's his uncle. For me, it's my dad, his aunt, or my great aunt. Like there's always people who are there. To be able to help you out with certain things. So what I want to do, since we're coming towards like the end of the episode, I want to open it up to the audience. Like, what are some questions like based off of what you guys have heard? Like, what are some things that maybe you guys want to know about, Marcus or Trey or, some things that maybe you might be curious, or if you're a father who grew up without a father, like what are some questions that you guys have about that? Or more specifically, if you're a mother who's raising a child without a father, right? Like, and maybe he's starting to show signs of emotional, stress or trauma. Like what kind of questions can we help you guys with, right? Because the objective of this podcast, right, a better me equals a better we, is us just reaching out to each other, a bunch of different people from a bunch of different backgrounds who have different perspectives, right? So every panelist that I bring on, like, we're all not going to think exactly alike. Like, my dad raised me and I don't think exactly like him, right? We all have a different perspective, right? But when each of us become better individually, then we all become better as a collective, right? Sitting together and sharing positive information, with each other so that, we can all learn and be better, right? So I'll give you guys a little bit of time to throw some questions in the chat if you guys have any, for our panelists. And in the meantime, I'll go over some of our comments in our comment section. So Nene Henderson said in our comments, yes, Marcus, exclamation point. Natalie said in our comments, real talk, Traquan, a reality is an absent father is traumatic. If you hold on to anger and never forgive that absent parent, you will walk around with triggers and hurt that you will never understand or heal. So I think that kind of sums it up, right? Like you develop certain triggers, certain things that if you don't heal from it, it'll damage a lot of relationships. Like whether it's from a woman um, or even your children. Key said in our comments, Marcus, has it been hard for you to love being that you had an absent father?
Um, it hasn't been hard for me to love. I love hard, though it has been hard for me to know what a correct relationship looks like, what that example is. So I just had to kind of like wing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't really think about, right? Like just winging it. And then I think a lot of times as men, we always feel like we have to have it together, right? So you never want to. It's hard to even be vulnerable enough to say like I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm just kind of figuring it out, like as I go along, right? Just because of that stereotype that as men we got to have it together, we got to have this, we got to have that, or we not doing it right. So definitely, man. And I just want to say, to both of you guys, a lot of times, and I said this last episode, a lot of times people get on platforms and podcasts and social media, and that's the thing, right? We get on social media and we portray somebody that we're not, or somebody that we want to be to other people. And you guys have been nothing but transparent, right? And I think, and I appreciate that, because this is what people need to hear. Like people need to hear the unfiltered truth. Like, this is what we go through. This is why your man may be behaving this way. This is why your child's father may be behaving this way. And maybe it'll open up conversations for mothers maybe to be more patient with their spouse or their child's father, or just if you're in a relationship with no children, like, let me be a little bit more patient. Let me look at things a little differently, because this traumatic experience, now we can look at it as a traumatic experience, has really affected, the way that he deals with people, like not just, kids, but just, people as well. So let's see if we have any more questions in our comments. And I really want to give you guys a chance to, in the comments, to ask anything, and or just comment, and what are your thoughts on this, right? So Dad, I'll ask you this question. As a matter of fact, I'll ask both of you guys this question. Natalie Nicole said in our comments, having an absent father, do you guys hang out with deadbeats? So Dad, how do you feel about that?
No, I do not, because having an absent father made me and all of my friends better fathers. 90% of my friends right now are dads. Ain't too many fathers. So it's not going to be like, oh, that's my father. No, they're going to be like, that's my dad.
Yeah.
My friends became dads. And not only was I was a dad to my kids, I was a dad to a generation of kids.
Yeah.
Because it gives me the right to know what a father's supposed to be. So I put forth a thing like, this is what a father's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So if you look at half of my family, 90% of the people that's younger than me almost look at me as a dad.
Yeah.
Not only my kids, half my family do it.
Right.
Because I give the same exact love. And that's what makes a dad, the time and the love.
Yeah.
Not the sideways treatment. Not like, oh, just do this for me, do this. No, I don't put batteries in backs to make people do stuff.
Yeah.
I put battery in your back to make you a better person. A dad only makes the person under them a better person. That's what being a dad is all about.
Yeah.
Making the person under you better than you. I want all of y'all to be better than me.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's not about how much money I got, how much money I give.
Yeah.
It's just making them better.
So how about you, Marcus? And I just want to say, Trig said in our comments that Trey was a father figure. Can you guys hear me? Sorry, guys. Okay, so I just want to say, Trig did say in our comments that Trey was a father figure to them and a lot of our family. So that's something that that you'll hear a lot. And Marcus, for you, having an absent father, do you hang out with deadbeats?
Yeah, I got a couple homies that's deadbeats. I'm not even going to sit here and cap. When we do talk about it, I do tell them they need to be in their child's life.
Yeah.
Because We don't want to put them through the same thing that we went through. And as y'all was talking about earlier, you can't be mad at your pops. There might be a situation. I honestly take it personally, and like, so it's caused a rift in a lot of my relationships, but I still do have homies that I talk to on a daily basis that are deadbeats.
Why would you
Like,
talk to them? Why would you talk to them if you take it personally?
I mean,
They
but
not my homies.
look, but
You
you,
take it personally in your
I
situation, but my homie can be a deadbeat because I know his situation on a daily basis. Now you know his situation. You just didn't know your
and
partner.
I take it and I take it personally because I don't feel like nobody should like abandon that responsibility. It doesn't matter how difficult or tumultuous that relationship is with the mother. Like it doesn't matter if you was in jail 20 years. You get out of jail, you go see your kid. Like,
Yes, I
and
agree.
um
A phone call makes a
though
difference.
yeah, phone call makes a difference. Though it's like, it's a lot of situations going on in life. Like, you understand? So it's like I'm not gonna just cut them off because I don't want them to die.
right? I
I'm
mean,
gonna
but
feel
but you,
away if I get the phone call and they die.
I like the fact that even though you said like, listen, I am around people that are deadbeats. I talk to them on a daily basis and say, yo, you need to do what you got to do. And I think a lot of times, I hear a lot of women in my own personal experience, I'm not saying that this is all women, but a lot of women that I've come encounter with, they think that men just don't say anything to their friends. Like they just don't say, like they just let them be deadbeats, and they don't say anything. And they just like, oh, you gonna be a deadbeat, be a deadbeat. Like in all actuality, it's not like that. Like most men who are active fathers who have friends that are deadbeats, they openly tell them like, bro, you're not doing the right thing. And ultimately, in the long run, you're helping that kid. Like you're helping that kid. Although you're helping, your friend, you because they don't know what they're missing, but you're most importantly helping that child in the long run. So this is going to be our last question because I don't want to hold you guys for too much longer over the time. But Natalie said in our comments, do you think a man should stay with a trifling woman for the sake of his child or vice versa?
No,
So,
Yes,
no.
yes.
Say yes, Big
I,
Trey.
I'm
You
sorry.
think they should stay?
I,
I'm sorry.
I want to hear your take, Marcus. I'm gonna hear your
I'm
take, and then
sorry.
we're gonna get to Trey.
To a certain degree. To a
How
certain
many
degree.
women listen, how many women out here stay in a marriage where they not happy just for the sake of their children and they become miserable and mean old ladies? It's the same thing on the man's side. Like if this person is especially if she's making it difficult, you should not bet your rest of your life on that person. Like I don't need to be with your mom for me to be in my son's life. That's what another thing I tell the deadbeat fathers. I don't need to be with his mom. Like I pop up with my son whenever it's necessary and whenever I feel the need to. So that's the most at peace I feel on earth is when I'm with my son. And Trey could tell you, I'm like not a joke. So me even feeling peace anywhere is a big accomplishment. And I feel a connection to that young man. Though, do I ever want to deal with his mother? Number one, she hid my child from me. He went to ACS. She hid my child from a year. Trey and Van Nay used to drive me to go visit my son in ACS. You think I'm gonna ever want to be with this woman again? Like,
Yeah,
never, ever,
right,
ever, ever, ever,
right.
ever.
But you still
Lied
gonna do
about
what you
having
gotta do.
ACS kids. Yeah, my son. I want to take my son from her, honestly. Now she want to fight, but it's all right. We good. I'll remain cordial and peaceful in that front. Though, do I think a man should stay with a trifling, devious person? No, and neither
Fact,
should a woman. If this
Yeah.
nigga over here, excuse me, if this man is over here beating on you, so I was about to curse. If this man over here beating on you, you gonna stay just because y'all got a child together or maybe two childs? No, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your take on that?
I wouldn't stay. But
You just told me you would stay.
I would.
Nah,
I would stay
nah, Dick
because
Trey.
no. The thing is how does it make me stay in my child life? Like I'm willing to sacrifice some of my life for my kids' life. So if that means I got to put up with a little bit of bullshit to be in my kids' life, I will. But the problem is we don't understand we have rights too. And we have to take our rights. See, our biggest problem as men, and this is why a lot of men are deadbeats, it's because we don't realize we have rights too. We have to take our rights to the white man, who we are afraid of being in front of because we always
And
in
they
front of
know
him for
that.
all of the wrong reasons.
Yo, honestly, Trey, you are so right. You heard Big Trey, excuse me. You are so right. First of all, your son is amazing. Like
Thank
the
you,
first
bro.
time he ever
Thank you.
met me, I was going through a traumatic event. You understand? It was probably the second time he met me. I was going through a traumatic event, and him and his wife, they held me down. Long story short, though, a lot of men don't know that they know that nobody's gonna do that. Number one, most young black men, Puerto Rican men, Dominican men, they don't want to go to court. Court what? Court
Judge.
what?
You say
What?
You
judge?
understand? I'm in that situation right now, bro. And the court is like, hurry up and wait. It's like now I'm on her time and I'm on the state's time. You understand? It's like, and this is two different entities telling you how you can deal with your child. And if it's not tumultuous with your baby mom, now you on her time. But if it's tumultuous with your baby mom, it's like you're not gonna see your son at all until the crowd, until the court let you. You
Yeah.
understand? So I'm not gonna say that's an excuse for a lot of deadbeat fathers, but that is a reason that a lot of
A
men
lot of
go
roads.
there.
A lot of roads that people take.
All right, y'all. This
It's a
conversation
lot of roads.
it's getting real deep, and I hate that it always gets this good right when we hit our time slot. But I want to make sure that we get you guys out of here. Because you guys could have been all of our viewers, our panelists. I respect your time. You guys could have been anywhere else, like anywhere else. You could have been watching Love and Hip Hop. I know they got a bunch of things that just came out on Netflix, like Kevin Hart's new movie Fatherhood, which I heard is amazing. I've
I
only watched a
watched
little
it
bit of
yesterday. It was all right.
it.
I liked it.
So I heard good things about. So you guys could have been watching that. You guys could have been doing anything, right? But you guys were here with us, pushing the envelope about this situation. I appreciate you guys' time. I really do. So in the essence of that, I'm trying to get you guys out of here. So Marcus, do you have anything for our viewers? Anything you want to say to our viewers before we get out of here?
Yeah, may God bless y'all. And Trey, you ever need me again, I'm here, man.
No, I
It's
appreciate that. I
all right.
appreciate that. Dad, you got anything you want to say to our viewers before we get out of here?
God bless. Good night. Be the Russell Simmons thing.
Listen,
But no, for all men out there who have to do it, the system works for us as well as it works against us. Let's not only think it works against us because we'll be stuck and we'll have more deadbeats.
Yeah.
Because every deadbeat we don't know which way to go. That's why it's hard to judge what side you're
A little
supposed
bit of bread is gonna all work. That's all I gotta say.
to. But we don't
That's
know
all I
who's the
gotta
first.
say.
Are you being kept away or you just staying away?
Yeah.
That's the situation that nobody knows in the situation.
Yeah.
So that's why I say don't hold pain and hurt unless you know the whole story.
Hey, listen, I hear that. I appreciate you guys sharing your perspective with us. Thank you so much. I gotta call him Trey. This the first, maybe I was joking, but calling him Trey, I've been calling him Dad all episodes. I could calling him Trey. But you know, thank you so much, Dad, for being on the show. Marcus, thank you so much for being on the show. You guys do not forget to like the Facebook page. Don't forget to like the Facebook page so you guys can get the updates. So you don't have to search around for the video. You like the page. As soon as we go live, it comes up. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I'm telling you, hit the notification, the thing, hit the bell so you can know when we're going live. You don't have to look for the video. It comes right up for you, right? So hit like, hit subscribe. Next week's episode, which is going to be Tuesday the 29th, we're going to be discussing a book. This book is entitled A Woman's Influence. And of course, I'm going to have a bunch of women on here so we can discuss this topic. Just speaking about the woman's influence in a bunch of different areas. You guys don't want to miss that.
You might need to have me on there too.
Look. If y'all want Marcus on a woman's influence, if y'all want him back on the next one, drop it in the comments. Let me know. Look, if Marcus will be back next week by popular demand. So drop it in the comments. Let me know if y'all want to see Marcus on next week's episode. But you guys don't want to miss that. We heard about guys and being fathers while being fatherless. Now we're going to hear about a woman's influence. This is a great book. Can't wait to discuss this with you guys. I can't wait for you guys to see the panelists we have lined up. It's going to be amazing. All right. And before we head out, I just want to let you guys know, I want you guys to remember that a better me equals a better we. You guys have a great week. Thank you so much for tuning in.